Hello, my name is Georgianne Ford with the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. And today we have one of our attorney mediators back with us Debbie Schneider's back to talk to us about something that's so simple, I think, Debbie, but it's just to remind us how are things figured out. Debbie's going to talk to us about child support in Pennsylvania. So Debbie, fill us in on just, some of the basics that we may not know.
Okay, well, I think everyone who has lived in Pennsylvania any period of time at all probably has heard about, if the subject of divorce comes up, they've heard about child support, right? Because it's a big subject and it's an important subject. So the state of Pennsylvania has promulgated an entire system designed to address the whole child support issue. And it's based on an income shares model in Pennsylvania, which means that everything the couple have in terms of income is required to be disclosed and essentially plugged into a formula. So the state has devised a formula, and it's, as I said, it's based on income. So the formula allows for the parties' incomes to be placed into it. And then there are certain assumptions that are made about tax filing status, about custody, and about a number of other sort of basic issues. And then the calculation is done and the formula produces a figure, a monthly figure for child support. And it's designed for the higher income spouse to be providing this child support to the lesser income spouse. And that's really what it's designed to address. And, it produces what we call the guideline number. And that guideline number is something that our couples in mediation often just agree to. There's not much, even much discussion about it. They understand that it's something that is, very basic. They want to support their families, so they do agree to this amount of child support. It's designed, as I said, to be the guideline amount. That's what we call it, but it's a basic support obligation. So it's designed to cover food, clothing, and shelter, the basics of life's necessities. And it's the number is ultimately based on each party's contribution toward the total. So their percentage contribution of the total is what the child support number is. So, for instance, if someone makes 75% of the income in the household and the other party makes 25%, then there will be a child support number of 75% of the child support number from the higher earning spouse to the lesser earning spouse. And then the state of Pennsylvania says everything over and above food, clothing, and shelter should be addressed in the same percentage. So what I tell my couples in mediation is to look at the extracurricular expenses, music, dance, sports, all the things that children are involved in, and think about addressing those expenses in the same percentages. Now, occasionally we have couples who, for whatever reason, they balk at paying child support. Often what we hear and what they say is, well, I just want to pay directly for the children. I'll just pay the children's expenses each time they arise. And I really strongly discourage this. It tends to just create confusion. If nothing else, it creates confusion because there has to be an agreement about every expenditure. It can often require further discussion, further negotiation, and that is not what most couples want. What most couples really are looking for is an arrangement that is pretty seamless, is without controversy or day-to-day difficulties. So I really discourage that. And when you dig a little deeper into these, with these couples, usually it comes down to that person just doesn't want to give money to the other party. So, one of the things we as mediators and as divorce attorneys have to do is just educate our clients and let them understand that this money is designed to support the other person's household. It doesn't have to be explained. It doesn't have to be reconciled.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, this
is very settled law in Pennsylvania and has been for a long time.
Mhm.
So, someone will say, well, he or she is not spending this money on kids. Well, it's money designed to support the household. It's not designed to be given to the children. All right. So there's a lot of considerations that go into this calculation. I mean, there are things, as I said, that can modify the number, but really it's just a starting point for some of our clients in mediation. Depending on the circumstances, they find themselves not really wanting to pay child support, or they don't feel like it's necessary. Both parties want to waive a payment of child support, and that is permissible. And it's also going to be the subject of another blog and another video. So
I was going to ask you, that sounds like a big different blog.
It is. It's a whole nother subject.
So one of the questions that came up for me is, if you were sitting there as a mediator and we're working out child support, I guess you try to bring up whatever some of those extra charges are, like daycare. Does that fall under?
Yeah, daycare is an important one because daycare is, everyone recognizes that daycare expenses are necessary if you have children, right? So again, that's an expense that couples would be expected to address in the same percentages. So again, if it's 75-25, the higher earning spouse would essentially be responsible for 75% of that cost, and the other spouse 25%.
So is this one of the tougher parts of the mediation, or does it go pretty smoothly?
Either way. It can be either way. I mean, as I said, many couples in our practice in mediation do very well with the guideline amount. They look at what it is and they recognize it's necessary, so they are perfectly comfortable with it. But we also try to address the needs of the parties. So in our practice at the Office Center, we also recommend our clients create budgets. And those budgets are really helpful in terms of additional child support. So if there is a guideline amount of child support, and then the budgets would say, well, that's not really enough, that doesn't really meet the second household's needs, then we might be looking at extra child support or an extra payment, maybe of alimony. Some other method to address additional needs. There's more to it than just creation of that guideline figure, but that's the place where I think every couple needs to start. If there are minor children, my clients need to know what that number is, and that's a great starting point.
And what I like is because if you be a mediator, there's no sides to it. It's just what's fair, and let's follow this formula, and then expand from there.
Right.
That the two of you walk away feeling like it's fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that.
Right. I mean, we do strive to make it not unfair. That's really my goal, is for both parties to feel like the bottom line is a result that's not unfair to them. So that's, as I said, that's my goal. And I think it works for many of our clients really well.
That's a great outcome goal. And the one thing I know too is you never rush it. You make sure that people really feel it. It's been designed to be fair, the whole program.
Right. And it is possible to modify child support. That's an important element as well, because it's income driven. If your income goes up or down, then the number is perfectly reasonable to modify, right? Whatever that guideline amount is, if there's a change in income, certainly for more than 6 months, we would certainly readdress that at the Office Center. And then you go back to court. Any couple can go back to court, have another conference, and modify the child support amount. So I always advise my clients of that reality. And at the Office Center, we are willing to do that simple calculation with no additional fee for the parties. So I think that's important and for people to understand. And it's a valuable, it's a valuable way to have them feel empowered too in the process. They know that here's what it is, and then we can always look at changes for either party.
You know what? That is so valuable to just feel like this is not the end of our relationship with Alpha. If something comes up and we need help, let's go back and revisit.
Right.
That's
Right.
wonderful. So just hearing all this, I guess what we're hearing from you is that you're going to expand on this topic because there's a lot of other pieces that can be added to this.
There's a lot of, the formula is pretty straightforward, but then there are lots of considerations, as I mentioned, nuanced issues that can affect that bottom line number. So those are all good topics for further blogs and further videos.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to having you back to expand on some of those topics. And you did cover, I think, in a couple of months ago, a blog, you touched on the modification part. So if anybody's
I did, yes.
So that would be under Debbie Schneider and the blogs. Debbie, thanks for visiting us. Thanks for coming back. It's a busy time of year for everybody, so we appreciate it. And if anybody has questions for Debbie, wants to talk to anybody at the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation, please call us, 1-800-310-9085. Again, Debbie, thanks for being our guest again today.